What is up, wrestling fans? It is that time of the week for the FLZ Wrestling Team to call all the action right down the middle and talk about everything we love about pro wrestling. And you know how we do that right here on the OG 607 TWS, The Wrestling Show, brought to you by FanlightZone.com. And of course, I am your host, and I'm also an executive producer, I should say, over at FanlightZone.com. My name is Rich. Joining me in the co-pilot's chair, as she does each and every week, she is the hunter of the Pokemans, because she's got to catch them all. She is the guru of cosplay. But most importantly for this show, she is a pro grappling connoisseur. It is the First Lady of FLZ Wrestling. It is Miss Sammy. How are you, Miss Sammy? And Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year. It's an exciting time. It's the first day of the new year, and we got a lot to talk about wrapping up, last year, and talk about what's going to happen this year.
Absolutely. And I want to say, for the first time in the history of Fanlight Zone, we are live on X. So we are live on our normal home at YouTube. We are live on Twitch, and we are live on X. So this is pretty awesome to have the first show live. And we, of course, before I even get started, because I'm so excited about that, we want to hear from you. Jump in the chat, super chat, do it all. We want to hear from you on this show because your opinions matter as well. We will be running down and talking about, as you can see from the description, reviewing World's End. We will be talking about what William Regal said that lit the internet on fire for some reason. And then we'll also be jumping into New Year's Evil, as well as some things that we missed, because obviously we had a little bit of break with the holiday season. But before we can dive into all that stuff, we do have to pay some bills, if you will, and give some shout outs. And first and foremost, that shout out goes to the place that runs it, FanlightZone.com. Head on over there. It is comics and pop culture, baby, and you're going to want to be a part of it. Every one of the premier places to go for new comic book day reviews, if I say so myself. And I'm not just saying that because I write reviews for comics, and I obviously am an executive producer. I'm saying that because the proof is in the pudding. 1 month old, and we're already pulling some stuff off. We're only in their second month as a company, and we hope you guys join along. More things will be on the way. You can also go and see some blogs and articles about pro wrestling with more to come. And as we expand out into 2026, there will be even more to come at FanlightZone.com. So make sure you're checking that out. And of course, thanks for powering 607 TWS, our new home, if you will. And of course, because you already mentioned that you can watch us live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Twitch, on X now. But we want you to follow us on all those places. So head on over. You see it right there. FanlightZone.com has your hookup for all of the social links. All those socials are there. And of course, if you aren't watching us already on YouTube after the show, go over to YouTube. Make sure you smash the subscribe button. Make sure you click the bell icon for notifications so you know whenever we go live or whenever a new video gets put up. And then, of course, hit that thumbs up button to let the EIC, Ken M, know that you want more pro wrestling and content in general over here at Fanlight Zone's YouTube channel. We got a lot of stuff coming on in 2026, Sandy. I just want to throw that out there. Not to put ourselves over, but this is a wrestling show. And let's be honest. Putting yourself over is wrestling as apple pie.
Kind of what you do in wrestling, right?
Yeah, you got to put yourself over a little bit, right? All right, but enough of us putting ourselves over. Let's put over some wrestling. And, there's only one place I think we can start this week. And we came off of a huge, huge event this past week. And, of course, that was AEW's World's End 2025. I mean, we're burying the lead, but you see the picture. But we're going to run down the card right now. We're going to do it a little differently because you know how we do it here, Sammy. We're not going to, we might not stop on individual matches. I'm going to list off a bunch, and I'm going to stop at the key matches that we really, really want to talk about. Of course, chat, super chat. If you want to talk about something, throw that in the chat. Give your opinions on what we're talking about because we want to hear from you as well. And remember, the only rule is that, keep it social. Everybody, in cordial. We don't want anybody running anybody down because, hey, everybody might have a differing opinion, and that doesn't mean your opinion's wrong. That's the cool thing about opinions. Opinions, everyone can have one, just like another part of the body, as I've been told by other people. So let's go ahead and let's kick it off. And of course, it went down this past weekend at Hoffman's Estates, Illinois, at the Now Arena in Chicago. Well, it's basically Chicago, Illinois. The attendance for this event is not important. We're not even going to get into that, but it was like 9,000 people, which is fine. I'm so past the day and age of ticket clicking because I don't get any piece of that ticket sale, so I really don't care how many people were there. All right. So with that being said, there was some pre-show matches. I'm going to run through them all, and we'll get an overview on them. In the opening contest, it was a women's tag team division match as the Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart and Sky Blue, would defeat Hanya and Maya World by pinfall at 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Next up, we would get Eddie Kingston defeating Zach Gibson. We haven't seen Zach Gibson in a little while. 5 minutes and 40 seconds. In the next match, we would have a tag team match where Mascara Dorado and Bandito would defeat the Don Callis family team of Mark Davis and Rocky Romero in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. And last but certainly not least, in an 8-man tag team extravaganza, or as we like to call it, the AEW pre-show special, Jet Speed, Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey would tag with Jurassic Express, Jungle Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus as they would defeat Josh Alexander and The Demand, Ricochet, Bishop Kong, and Toa Leona in 9 minutes flat. This was a really fun pre-show, in my opinion, Miss Sammy. How did you feel about the pre-show for, or I should say the 0 hour for World's End?
Yeah, the 0 hours, they're typically, the time when no one's really fully paying attention. And to be fair, I wasn't fully paying attention either. But this did keep enough of my attention. I kept turning back and looking at it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is fun. It was definitely a solid way to start the show. A much better 0 hour than other ones in the past. I was paying a lot more attention to this one than some of the ones in the past.
I agree 110%. Let's move on to the main card, though, shall we? Because that's what the people want to talk about. And we're going to lump the first two matches together because both of them were the semifinals matches for the Continental Classic. First match on the card, the Rainmaker, your reigning Continental Champion, Kazuchika Okada, would defeat the reigning IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Takeshita, 17 minutes and 25 seconds. You heard that right here. You heard it here first. Okada would be moving on to the finals. And in the second Continental Classic match, former AEW World Champion Jon Moxley would defeat former TNT Champion Kyle Fletcher, 22 minutes and 35 seconds. By the way, for once, Jon Moxley did not tap out. And I'm going to say this. I thought we were going to get the Don Callis family exploding. We had Takeshita versus Okada as the opening contest. So it would have been very easy to book Okada versus Kyle Fletcher, right?
Yeah.
However, I like what they did here because there's a little bit of storytelling. Okada, to win the match against Takeshita, gets underneath the little padding that goes around the turnbuckle, and he pulls out a screwdriver and uses the screwdriver, which is a Don Callis specialty, to take out Takeshita. Well, later on, in the second match, Kyle Fletcher goes to look for the screwdriver, which tells the story that Kyle Fletcher is the one who put the screwdriver there. And because Okada used it, the screwdriver is no longer there. And that leads him to getting choked out by Jon Moxley. So I thought the storytelling here was tremendous, in my opinion. Miss Sammy, your thoughts on the two Continental Classic matches? Or
Yeah,
semifinal
these were
matches?
both. Yeah, so these were both really solid matches, and like you said, there was a bit of storytelling here that carried on a little bit, throughout the night and into, this week's Dynamite. And it's nice seeing Okada finally getting an opportunity to really be a major player. He's been in AEW for a while now and just never really latched on to anything. But this second half of the year, he's definitely been a really strong competitor there, and it's been fun to watch because we grew up watching Okada. Okada's amazing. So it's been a lot. It's been fun. These two matches really, a great way to start to be a part of the show and really highlight the tournament itself.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I will. I'm going to give the devil his due too. I mean, you know me, and I'm not backing down. I always say the man without aura, Kyle Fletcher, and I understand he's talented in the ring. That has nothing to do with it. Just no gimmick. I got to give him some credit in this match. He showed a little bit of chutzpah, if you will. He his selling and the way that he went to retrieve that screwdriver and everything actually impressed me. And once again, I've always said he was without aura, but that has nothing to do with his in-ring abilities. I think Kyle Fletcher is a tremendous in-ring worker and performer. It's just that extra stuff, and we haven't seen too much promise in that pizzazz, if you will, and the gimmick. And I think that this was one of the first times where I really went, oh, he can get something done. Like most of the match, he did a very good job of, selling the fact that, he was in danger a lot. And then at the end, like him going for that screwdriver, the look on his face when he was like, whoa, where is it? Before the panic sets in as Jon Moxley gets him in that choke. I was like, okay, this maybe this kid's going to prove me wrong in 2026. Maybe. So I have hopes there. But I do like the fact that later in the evening, we're going to talk about it in a minute, our finals are set. Continental Classic, as AEW likes to book him as, and I got to admit that you can't argue it too much. Kazuchika Okada, the best tournament fighter, wrestler of all time, taking on, in a lot of ways, still the man I think is the heart and soul of AEW and Jon Moxley. I mean, obviously, we've been kind of saying that this whole gimmick, which we'll talk about later, has gone on a little long, but let's be honest, he's still the heart and soul. So you have a great finals to your Continental Classic, and we'll talk about that later because that happens later in the evening. But before we get there, let's do some other rundowns. Next matchup was a Chicago street fight for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Your champions, the FTR, Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, they got Stokely in their corner. They're taking on the Bang Bang Gang, Juice Robinson and Austin Gunn. 17 minutes flat. FTR gets the win. Not to disparage anybody in this match, because I thought the match was entertaining, but who really gave a damn? Is my takeaway. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's not just disparaging anybody in the match. I thought it was entertaining.
I didn't even think the match was that solid at all. It's like whatever.
It was what it needed to be. It gets outshined right away after because the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championships were on the line. The Babes of Wrath, your AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, taking on All Belts Monet, as she's been losing a few of those, though, your TBS champion, and of course the forever champion, the ROH Women's Champion, Athena. This match got 13 minutes, 10 seconds at the end of the day, and still your AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, the Babes of Wrath, as Willow Nightingale continues to have one hell of a record against Mercedes Moné as she defeated Moné. And now I'm going to skip ahead because I feel like we have to. I said that night, and this is going to be a thing that we're going to talk about later in the show towards the end when we do our quick hits and stuff. I said during that show to Ken M and Dog, because I was watching with them as always, I said if AEW is smart, they would point out the fact that Willow Nightingale pretty much owns Mercedes Moné. What did they do? We had our New Year's version, our edition of Dynamite. Mercedes Moné throwing a fit during this event, puts out the challenge to Willow Nightingale. Tony Khan makes it official and puts the TBS championship on the line. And Willow Nightingale on Dynamite defeats Mercedes Moné to become your new AEW TBS Women's Champion and the second TBS champion, the first two-time, TBS champion in the history of that title. And she's a double champ. She's a champ now. I thought that they executed it to perfection. Now, I understand we're jumping ahead here, but how did you like this? I thought this women's tag team match was everything the men's wasn't, and I dug this quite a bit.
I think that was the best way to phrase it. This match was everything that the men's match wasn't, and you didn't want the guys to go out there and do the same thing, that do something different, different things for the audience. But this one was just better storytelling, better match, just everything about it. It just laid out better, and yeah.
I agree. And how about the TBS championship win for Willow Nightingale on Dynamite? I know we're skipping ahead with that.
No, but yeah, that's huge. I mean, there's been so much talk about Mercedes Moné for months and months and months, and even us, we started to really groan about it. And we all knew that eventually you were going to start to see this downfall. I mean, it's inevitable, right? When you're running this kind of character of a belt collector, and it was a good moment and a great way, to end the year and start 2026. Both companies are starting to freshen things up, and I think this was a great way to show it with strong storytelling as well.
I just got to put it out there in the world. I don't know what Mercedes contract looks like or when it expires, but oh boy, we're starting to see belts come off of her left and right. So it makes you kind of wonder, right? It makes you kind of wonder.
Royal Rumble season starts now.
Yeah, once again, like I said, I don't know what it's like, so I don't want to get that rumor started, but you got to start to wonder. And I understand this could just be the hero's downfall, if you will, or in her case, the villain's downfall. But who knows? A lot to be explored there. The next match up was a singles match where Darby Allin would defeat Gabe Kidd, 12 minutes and 50 seconds. Once again, This is one of my famous moments of a pay-per-view. By the way, not that this match was bad. I think every match was good in the ring. But it was another one of those missteps on AEW pay-per-view where you're like, why? Like Darby Allin still fighting against the Death Riders, who are basically on their last thread, and we'll talk about that a little more in a minute, but it was just kind of like, why? Your thoughts?
I don't have much. Darby Allin, he's the other, or supposed to be one of the contenders for the heart and soul of AEW, and he's messing around with Gabe Kidd. There's this Death Riders story just goes on forever.
And mind you, I love Gabe Kidd. I'm a big Gabe Kidd fan, but it just kind of seems like, why? It's the second pay-per-view in a row where Darby Allin is doing a wasted, like, I thought after him and Moxley had their thing and he came out of the victor, like, what more do we have? You already went after, let's put it in the terms of a story. He went after the head of the snake and won. So why are you side mission into Pac and now to Gabe Kidd, the hired mercenary? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, this is one of those missteps in stories that I still can't wrap my head around, other than the fact to get Darby Allin on pay-per-view, but we could be building him to a world title match.
It's also weird that in a company where everyone has a belt, and I know that's not true, but let's be honest, everyone has a belt. How does Darby not have a belt?
Yeah, you might as well give him one. Why not?
Something, give him one. You get a belt. You get a belt. You get a belt.
My vote for the most fun match of the night was next. Not the best match of the night, but the most fun match of the night. It would be the Mixed Nuts Mayhem as Timeless Tony Storm, Roderick Strong, and the conglomeration, the TNT champion Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy would defeat the Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, and Marina Shafir. 12 minutes and 45 seconds. I think that this was the perfect length for a fun match, and it was fun. We even got to see the husband and wife duo of Roderick Strong and Marina Shafir have a nice little chop. He back chopped his own wife, which is interesting. I thought that this was just a fun match, and I thought, like, once again, throw out the storyline about the Death Riders being done, because I mean we're going to beat that into the ground by the end of the show, but it was still a fun match. That was my takeaway. Yes. Like I said, maybe not the best match of the night, but the most fun. Your thoughts?
In a card full of just match after match after match, it was nice to have this break and have some fun. Needed some fun.
Speaking of fun and a good match, the AEW Women's World Championship would be on the line next as your champion, Chris Statlander, would take on former champion that we were wondering whenever she would get her shot, Jamie Hayter. This match got 18 minutes and 10 seconds. At the end of the day, your winner and still AEW World's Women's Champion, Chris Statlander. This match was good. I don't think that this was the best outing for neither of them, which gives me hopes that we'll see this ran back at some time. Not crapping on it. I just think that I guess we've just gotten used to like the banger after banger that Statlander has been having. We remember the epic feud with her and Mercedes Moné where they tap into it. Her and Timeless Tony Storm have been doing good business. And nothing against Jamie Hayter. I just feel like they've never recaptured the Jamie Hayter before injury. And I don't know if that's, I think it's partially due to booking, because remember, they brought her back on a pre-show, not once, but twice. They've kind of buried her a little bit. I'm not talking about the burial that everybody online, so don't get up in a roar, but they buried her behind a lot of other talent that's doing things. And then now we get her in the spotlight and it feels like it wasn't able to be turned right back on. Not saying it was a bad performance. I just think this was not the most shining moment for either.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing where, Statlander's on a great run, so I'm going to focus more on Jamie Hayter. But like you said, from a story standpoint, it hasn't been strong, and the wrestling hasn't been strong either. Not to say that she's out there stinking up the place. It's certainly not the case, but she just hasn't been able to recapture that magic from before all that. And hopefully, new year, new Hayter, maybe she can, recapture that magic in 2026. I hope so.
I also think I
love her.
Me too, but I also hope that they gotta go, because they've gone with a more tweener approach to her, and I think you got to pick a side. And I think at this point in juncture, the smart money would be heel, because they need heels. I mean, your only true top women's heel is Mercedes Moné, and she's the only. I mean, obviously she still gets cheered a little bit, but like, think about it. Like, if you go to the other end of the level and go to the Sisters of Sin, they're over. They're supposed to be heels, but they're over. And it's not anything that's not against them, because I think they're doing the right things to be, heels, but they're just a cool group. I mean, everybody loves Julia Hart. Everybody loves Sky Blue. Everybody likes Tekla. it's hard to hate that team, right? And so you need a real strong heel. And I mean, if you come out of this and we can build a little more, we can build Jamie Hayter into that big women's, heel. I think that she could find a nice little alley that will really bring her up in 2026, in my opinion. But let's move on because we only got 2 matches left. And the last is the final for the Continental Classic. And of course, it will be for the AEW Continental Championship. Your champion and defending Continental Classic winner, the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada, taking on Jon Moxley. This match got 20 minutes and 10 seconds. And at the end of the day, your winner and your new AEW Continental Champion, aka also Continental Classic winner, Jon Moxley. Before we focus on what was done after the match, let's talk about the match itself. It lived up, in my opinion, to what we would have thought it would be. The Rainmaker versus Jon Moxley. Tremendous match. Of course, we know Okada's next big match will be coming up here soon at the Tokyo Dome on January 4th, where he will have Tanahashi's last match. And that's right around the corner, as today is the 1st of January. Oh, trust me, folks. I cannot wait to talk some New Japan Pro Wrestling, which we will talk about at the end of the show a little bit. However, Jon Moxley kind of getting some rebounds back for being the man who tapped out to everything, winning this tournament against Okada. Your thoughts on the match, though, Sammy?
Match was really, really strong. Really, really good. Great way to cap off this tournament. And yeah, we get Moxley with a belt, but in a way that we kind of cared about it. Is the face turn happening here? I mean, that seems like where this is going, and maybe that'd be fun. Get away from this Death Rider stuff. And when it comes to Okada, I think he's primed for a strong 2026 as well with his story. And obviously, he's taking a detour to New Japan. Fine by me. Can't wait for that, like you said. But yeah, this match was really highlights why AEW still does this tournament and how it can be successful. Does it drag on a little too long? Yeah, sometimes, but this one was done very well.
I agree. And let's just dive into that. You mentioned it after the promo that Jon Moxley cuts with the Death Riders in the ring, who have been notoriously a heel faction, including earlier in the night against Darby Allin, including earlier in the night against the Club and the Mixed Nuts Mayhem. Yeah, he cuts this. I know it's funny to say, right? But he cuts this promo that is only could be compared to a babyface promo. Talking about hard work and getting there and perseverance. Sounded not like a heel Jon Moxley, and I'm fine if they're going to go face route with him. I'm absolutely fine with it. I just thought it was an interesting choice after this match with Okada. Your thoughts?
Listen, if it leads to the end of the Death Riders, well, it won't, because then Moxley himself will feud with the Death Riders. But then after that, if it's done, good. When was he a face?
No.
Yeah, when was he even a face in AEW, Moxley?
He was. Back when he was saving the company. Years ago.
Yeah.
It's years at this point.
Yeah, it's a while.
You're talking about when Pepsi Phil was there.
Yeah, so it's time.
He was still a face with Pepsi Phil. Remember, that was the whole thing between him and Pepsi Phil. He was a face. Let's go to the main event of the evening. And by the way, for the first time in a long time, and I'm not crapping on anything, because once again, I've always said AEW will deliver in the ring 110% of the time. But this is the first time in a long time that I felt like the main event of the show, the World's Heavyweight Championship match, felt like a main event. It felt larger than life. And it was a 4-way dance, but it's just the star power in this match for AEW. Because let's go into it. The World Championship on the line, 4-way match. AEW World Championship. Your champion, Samoa Joe, taking on whose house? Swerve Strickland's house. That's whose. And then Hangman Adam Page. And last but not least, cashing in his Casino Gauntlet guaranteed contract, the devil himself, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. This match, by the way, another reason why this match felt huge, right? The match got 20 minutes and 35 seconds. In a company, we're used to having these matches that drag out. This was the perfect timing, the perfect things. We're going to go into it more, but 20 minutes, 35 seconds. At the end of the day, your winner, and of course, the picture gave it away, and your new AEW World Heavyweight Champion Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, has come back to reclaim his throne. I cannot put this match over more. They did the right amount of spots, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
They did the right amount of faulties. They did a right amount of like different things that are going in, like all you want to throw about the technical terms. You had the right amount of every person in the match. It didn't feel like one person dominated the match for too long. It felt like everybody got their shake. And at the end of the day, when MJF wins, you could feel a release in the building. Not necessarily a cheer. He did get cheered on because he's always going to be that cool heel. But you also felt this release of, oh man, we are back on track. Like I feel like at myself, maybe I'm projecting that on the audience, but correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. He wins the match, and I go, oh, we have been talking about how stellar they've done with the ending of 2025, going into 2026, which we're in now. And it was like, oh, that's what you needed. You need to start the year fresh. And how do you do that? With one of your biggest box office draws with your world title. Nothing against Samoa Joe. He's one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. He's been a workhorse when needed, including here, where he transitioned perfectly from one era into another to really shoot some adrenaline into AEW. And I think that can't be understated for Samoa Joe, how selfless that truly is.
Mm-hmm.
And now you could have made Hangman champion again and hotshot the belt back on him. You have some feuds, right? You could have put the belt back on the franchise player, because I've been saying it for a long time. Swerve Strickland's the franchise. That's fine. I feel like the hunt, though, for a franchise player is a lot more than the title. Like being champion, I should say. But you go back to the guy who not only can carry the belt and give it some and freshen it up, not only is legitimately, the longest reigning AEW world champion already, but also a guy where you have so many matchups that you can make. This could be a title reign where we get all the matchups. We'll talk about Dynamite in a minute, obviously, because I want to talk about Dynamite. But let's give this its due first. Sammy, your thoughts on this main event?
So from a match itself, it really did a great job of all four getting their stuff in, all four being highlighted. So it really was a really strong four-way dance, which can be tricky sometimes, especially when you have competitors at all different stages in their careers. Samoa Joe, but Samoa Joe works a style that's great with them trying to do the over the top stuff, because for his entire career, he's always blown it off. So like everything really blended well here, which I love. Because when you have four people, you have four different minds, four different move sets, four different everythings. It can be hard to blend that all together. It worked very well. The match finish was really well done. It was done in that heelish way. We do like that. And putting the belt back onto MJF, it's tricky because he was gone for so long and he comes back and he's immediately champion. That could feel a little sour a little bit, but it's okay because 2026, it needed something like this. You needed that kind of refresh to go into the year with Samoa Joe as your champion, who I love Samoa Joe. It would have been tougher because it just hasn't really been the strongest storytelling from him. And like you said, transitional champion. So I loved everything about the main event. I did like that the belt moved to MJF, but it's just proceed with caution, just because we need to see the next evolution of MJF. If he's coming in and he's doing the same stuff he did before, that could be a big misstep. And I think he's ready to do that.
But here's the thing. I will say this. MJF is, to a great credit to him, is a master of reinventing himself when he has the ball. And what I mean by that is, yes, he can go back and he can revert, and it's fine to revert back to the MJF character, like the original. Let's just say what it is, the asshole, right? That's what it is, or he likes to call it scumbag, right? Mm-hmm. And it's fine, because you should go back to that. Well, I mean, I sing the praises of the Miz, and the Miz has always been able to go back to that asshole Miz that made you hate him. But he's also able, when you need him to do whatever he needs to do. And I think that I don't think this in a bad way, and I know some people will take it this way. The comparisons that you can get between The Miz and MJF are real easy, and it's not because of their promo skills. It's because of whatever you ask them to do, they can go out and do it. I think that some people saddle The Miz with being that like it's some bad word, but you got to remember he's been relevant for a long time, and the reason why is because when he's needed, you can hand him the ball and he will take care of business. And that is the best compliment you can give to any worker. I think MJF, granted, I will say this, and this might ruffle feathers, I think MJF is a better in-ring performer than The Miz. Not saying The Miz is bad. I just think MJF is better. He's obviously younger, and there's a higher ceiling, right? And I think that he has shown so far in his young career, because he's very young. Remember, I love how that list came out from SI about the best wrestlers under 30, and MJF was like number 15. The former world champion, the longest reigning AEW world champion. And I think that deep down, if you know anything about Maxwell Jacob Friedman, the human being outside of the ring, is I think he saw that list and said, oh no, that doesn't fly with me. Why? Not because the other people aren't talented, but because I am the best under 30. So I think I lit a fire under his ass, and I think we're going to see that. And we saw that when he came back. That the promos he cut since he's come back, and we'll get to Dynamite in a minute, yes, kind of sound like MJF because they have to, right? But you could tell there's a little extra. MJF in the past wasn't invoking the name of Diddy. You know what I mean? He went there. He wasn't afraid to take the shots. I mean, he got right in Samoa Joe's face. Like, the old school MJF would have done his snarky comments, and then when the guy came up, begged off. So he's mixing some of that, what we saw over his title run when he was a face. And you know, remember the Triple H moment where he kind of mimicked the game for a while when he first returned to AEW with the leather jacket with the leather vest over the jean jacket. You know, we all kind of drew the comparison, right? He channeled that and got right in Samoa Joe's face. So I'm thinking we have a little mixture of everything that we've seen brought to the table by MJF. Fast forward, you know, great show, obviously great pay-per-view, but you're only as good as your last show. We fast forward, and we already talked about the title change, the TBS title changing hands, Willow Nightingale becoming champion, other great matches on the card, but then you have MJF celebrating being your world champion, telling us that he's better than us, and we know it. And new year, new us, right? We wonder what AEW is doing, and we were very critical. Where was MJF? Where, you know, we know Will Ospreay's still out injured, but where was MJF? Why isn't Darby Allin in the mix? And there was another guy on that list that we kept bringing up. One of your top stars, bar none. Somebody who still has some mileage on those tires. And that guy was Kenny Omega. And what did we get on Dynamite? We got the interruption from Kenny Omega to MJF. And it didn't sound like the Kenny Omega we've become accustomed to. The past couple of years with Kenny Omega, and granted the injury, the diverticulosis, and everything else that happened to him, you know, it's a miracle that he's in the ring, and we always want to see more Kenny Omega. But we hadn't seen that fire. They just kind of kept him in the Don Callis family business. Him against Takeshita, him against Okada, him against, you know, and just kept him in that. We got the Elite back together, so now we have the band back together. We got Being the Elite back as a thing on YouTube, maybe not as a weekly show, but they're putting out episodes, which has really kind of reinvigorated not just him, but the Young Bucks. And you're not just seeing that as behind the scenes. You're now seeing that from the camera. We talked about that with the Young Bucks, me and you did, coming into the end of the year and how the Young Bucks year ended. And it's nice to see them back as being one of the top tag teams in the world. Maybe saving tag team wrestling, we'll find out, right? And Kenny Omega, we needed. This promo he cut reminded me, and I know he said in it that he's not the cleaner, and he's not the best bout machine, and he sure as hell isn't the belt collector. But it still sounded like the confidence was back. And of course, it's been far too long since we've heard I bid you adieu. You know, good luck and good night. Bang. And it was nice to see that fire back in Kenny Omega. And I'm going, okay. I hope, and I think this is what they'll do, because it kind of sounded that way. I hope that they slow roll it. They do what he said. Instead of getting a shot next week, Kenny Omega has to claw to get his shot back. He has to earn his spot. And MJF could be the chicken shit heel who dodges him as long as he can. And then we get that crescendo. We finally get Kenny Omega in the main event against MJF. And in the meantime, it's not like MJF doesn't have opponents. The nice part about MJF as champion coming into 2026 is there is a lot of opponents, some fresh, some not so fresh. There's a lot of things we can revisit. The nice part about MJF is he's always got a problem with everybody. So it's easy to throw an Orange Cassidy in there for a program. It's easy to throw Swerve Strickland out there as a program. It's easy to throw out there, you insert different names here, there, and everywhere to build it up. My thing is, I think, and this is just my thoughts, I would like to see all of these people get their shot at MJF. I would like to see MJF go on at a little bit of a run, including defeating Kenny Omega. Because I think what you need to build to is All In Wembley Stadium. They're returning to Wembley. As long as the timetable stays correct, that should be, Will Ospreay should be back. It writes itself. Ospreay, MJF, main eventing Wembley. And that's what, if you want to build the strongest 2026 possible, I think that you have, there it is. You have a road and you have a lane. And I understand it's a predictable one, but what's wrong with predictability when it's that damn good? Am I wrong?
I'm just hopeful. I'm fearful and then hopeful that AEW will focus on all of the potential contenders and that MJF will play the heel character who just kind of pokes and prods and gets them to feud with each other. Instead of the MJF character where he just somehow was able to always put these barriers in front of people. And it's like, you're not the booker. And it just never made sense. It's like, who's listening to you? You just go talk to the guy in the back. You don't get to like make all the rules. I don't want MJF making all these rules. I want him to be the one just poking and prodding at people and getting them to fight with each other. I think that's a better tack. If it's MJF setting all these rules, it's like you don't get to make the rules. It doesn't work that way, and it never did. And it's something he's done over and over again. So that's my hope for 2026 is that's the evolution of his character, is that he becomes like a stir the pot person, and maybe he gets a Swerve and a Hangman to feud again. Maybe he gets, a Kenny Omega to divert to somebody else for a little while. I'd like to see that, like more mind games instead of just, oh, well, I'm going to put someone in front of you because I get to do that. It's like, you don't get to do that. You don't. And that would be sad if that happened again. And I would
agree.
feel that it's just MJF not being able to reinvent himself if that's what he
Mm.
ultimately ended up doing. But things have been strong in the latter half of the year for AEW. They have moved some things around. They have moved a lot of pieces around, and hopefully that'll reward itself in the beginning of the year because it's starting off strong so far.
Agreed. Well, there was a little bit of controversy surrounding, I don't think it was just about World's End, but there was a spot during the night where Kyle Fletcher got a little bit of the Snapdragon, which, if you don't know what Snapdragon is, it's from the middle rope. It's a snap suplex, hands behind the head, dragon suplex, if you will, executed quickly. And it's been done from the middle rope before. Kenny Omega famously made that a thing. Is it dangerous? Absolutely. Is all wrestling dangerous? Absolutely. However, we had somebody weigh in, and that person, in my opinion, deserves to have the respect of their weigh-in, and that, of course, would be William Regal. And you notice I did pick an AEW picture of William Regal, credit to AEW for the photo, because to remind everybody that William Regal was there. So William Regal did go on, and he took to the social medias, and he had some interesting things to say, and I'm gonna read them right here, and we'll talk about it after. So he took there, and he basically said, "I broke my neck twice, in 93 in ring and car wreck in 97, and stupidly never told anyone. And I was taught properly how to bridge and not land on the top of my head. It's a skill that maybe 99.9% of people don't know or will ever learn anymore. I kept going somehow, but knew all the tricks that, again, people don't learn and watch film and just copy." We go on also to say, "Although people use the term tough about me, you'll never hear me say that, as I'm not and don't think I am or have ever been. Money and whatever nonsense fame is supposed to be is not worth the pain or supposed to evening glory you get from these ridiculous moves dropping yourself on your head. Stop it now if you want a decent quality of life after wrestling, because the part of your life will be over before you know it, and wrestling done right is hard enough, but broken necks or death are not something you should think is tough or cool. It's idiotic thinking. Of course, a lot of people came in there and they started jumping in on the internet, the IWC. And I think that, first of all, I think there was a major disconnect here. There's a disconnect between fans and fans' perspective and wrestlers and or what we would say workers and workers' perspective. William Regal post was not directed to the fans of pro wrestling. It was directed to the workers, the wrestlers, the guys and gals that go out there and put their bodies on the line night in and night out for the entertainment of the fans. And what I mean by this is that for fans, and as a person who's worked in the wrestling business and is also a lifelong fan, as fans, we love those ooh and ah moments. But there is a price to them. And it's a very real price to them. Whether it's ask somebody like Stone Cold Steve Austin, whose career was over like that, who also had a broken neck. Ask somebody like Bryan Danielson, who in an age where guys are wrestling pretty competitively well into their 50s, is on light shelf duty, if not wrestling again, period. Ask somebody like Big E, who took what would appear to normally be a normal move, a basic move, if you will, and not without pointing fingers, things went wrong, and he will probably never wrestle again. Adam Cole, also, not a normal move, taking a pretty dangerous spot, and with great risk comes, with great reward, but also in this case, probably ended his career as well. So there's a trend, but there's also a bigger trend that maybe somebody who doesn't know that, you had somebody like Paraguaya who was unalived in the ring by an internal decapitation. It's only getting some wind now because they're going to do a Dark Side of the Ring about it. And Rey Mysterio's connection to it, because Rey Mysterio happened to be in that match. Not his fault at all. Never got connected with anything. It's just that injury happens. You know who else lost their life that way in the wrestling ring? Misawa. Misawa died in the middle of a wrestling ring because of an internal decapitation. Why? Because years of doing things to your neck finally severed. Yeah, if you don't know what internal decapitation is, look it up. It's not pretty. It is literally where your spinal cord is severed from your body. So your head is still on your shoulders, but it's not. These things are real. These are people who are peers of one William Regal. These are people who, in the case of Misawa, is somebody William Regal looked up to. And yes, wrestling, no matter what you do, can be dangerous. We highlighted that. And this is not taking away. And I understand that it happened after World's End, but that just happened to be when he tweeted. And yes, that means he's watching the product, ladies and gentlemen. And he saw a young kid like Kyle Fletcher, who has a whole life in front of him, who made that list higher than MJF of wrestlers under 30, and is saying, hey, kid, you need to pump the brakes now so you can continue to wrestle in your 30s or possibly 40s to hit your true prime. You turn around and instantly people pointing fingers at the Braun Breaker at War Games with the Doomsday device. I don't think he's excusing that. But once again, that falls under a move that, yes, is a dangerous move, but it's been done a million times. And he overturned on it. It happens. It was an accident. And thankfully, it didn't turn out in worse than what it was, because it could have ended worse very easily. So I don't think he's excusing that. But it was kind of weird to me that the internet just jumped down there and who is William Regal? And for years, we've all respected him and what he's doing. And this wasn't, I don't think, a shot to close down AEW. This is just a shot to tell young workers to protect themselves so they can have a career and a legacy. And if you don't listen to me, go ahead and listen to what Kenny Omega said. Kenny Omega co-signed everything William Regal said. Think about
I
that
think
for a
that
minute.
goes,
The guy.
yeah, and I think that goes a long way in this because too often we get into this mode of the old heads are talking again, and the narrative quickly shifts to the product is different now, wrestling is different now, and at the end of the day, at its core, wrestling is no different now than it was 40, 50 years ago. You do the same things. You tell a story, you're a character, and then you have a big you fool around and you mess with another character, and then you have this big storyline, and then you culminate in a match, and you have this match to get your fans invested in it. And we've seen time and time again in all wrestling, people do too much. And what's the one we always hear? You need to slow down. I remember it was a famous Triple H thing. It's like if you're out there and you got to slow down, you got to slow down, you got to slow down. And when you don't, and when you think you're going slow enough, go even slower. And that is so true in wrestling. You could take that page and let things linger. Hit a move, and you don't immediately need to jump into the next one. And you don't always need to be one-upping each other with flashy moves. You don't need to do that. There is something to the art of selling. Selling has been lost and by so many wrestling circles. Get back into letting things just kind of, sit there and lie for a minute, and that's okay. It's okay to have a match like that. You don't need to jump from spot to spot to spot to spot to spot. And if you want to tell that story, that's fine. But don't do that story on Dynamite. Save that for the big moment. Something on Dynamite or on Monday Night Raw or NXT on Tuesday nights, it's not worth it. In a company where you have a Brian Danielson, where you have an Adam Copeland, where you had a Saraya, three people who had very famous head neck injuries. I don't know. It's one of those times where the old heads, it's like, no, you really should be listening to the old heads a little bit more. And I don't want to see this from Kyle Fletcher. Like you said, he landed very high on that list, but I think we have to remind people Kyle Fletcher has hurt people already.
Adam Cole.
So are we going to get to a point where you might have to start talking about a narrative of being an unsafe worker? I don't want to say that about him. I don't want to say that at all. I don't want to say that about anyone in wrestling. I want everyone to be safe, but safety doesn't just come from being able to do the moves. It just comes from the decisions that you make in the first place. Was that a necessary thing to do? I don't think it was. You could have done something completely different and gotten the same reaction out of it.
When I worked in wrestling, because I worked in the office, I wasn't wrestling, but when I worked in wrestling, the term that a lot of guys would say is less is more. Less is more. It doesn't mean you don't break out the big moves, but you save the big moves for the big times, for the big spots, for the big end of the story, the crescendos. If you do it all the time, then it just becomes expected of you. And right. Another thing it reminded me of, and I know I said this, and I know this is why Omega took his time and said about things, is that I just would like to say that Snapdragon is something that he does. And I mean, he's not the inventor of it, but it's something that he did. And he did that move off the middle rope. And it was the first time him and Okada met in the ring, and of their amazing, saga of matches. And I remember sitting there watching it, and on the call that night was a very well-respected man named Steve Corino for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And Steve Corino said, after the move, and everybody's, claps and everything, and, Kevin Kelly was the other person on the call. He's putting it over because he does a great job with that. And Corino very somberly, when in the downtime, says, it's moves like that in 5 to 10 years, it's cool to see tonight, but in 5 to 10 years is going to be the reason why he can't move his neck. And it brought, to me, that always struck that to me in that match. That's why it's in my mind, because in the moment where this exciting match and one of the most legendary matches of all time is going down, it's on everybody's one of the greatest matches of all times list somewhere. Top 5 easy. Okada Omega 1 is up there. And to think during that match, Steve Corino, while witnessing this match, that he's even gone on and saying is one of the greatest matches, said it on that night a bunch of times. He has even gone on to say that was the point that he made, was to bring it down and say, oh man, the worker in him looked and went, I am really worried about this younger cat Okada and where his career goes because of that move. It's not necessary. And it's not the old guys poo-pooing and not wanting you to do things. Trust me, they did plenty of dangerous and terrible things to each other. They're just saying, from their perspective, they watched a lot of guys whose careers should have been bigger. One that comes to mind, and whether you like the person or not, because trust me, there's a lot to not like about him personally, but the Dynamite Kid is one of those guys that goes down all the time, is inspiring a gigantic amount of wrestlers. His career cut short because of dumb things, taking dumb chances. Who knows? Who knows where he could have gone? Who knows how much of the things that were wrong with him wouldn't have been wrong if he didn't do those things? Who knows how far he could have gone? That is what it is. But I don't see getting on William Regal for this. It really made me, as a wrestling fan, feel sad because, yes, I get when somebody's spitting sour grapes. We get it all the time. We hear it all the time from people on podcasts, right? You know, you can tell when some of the old veterans are just, a little bit jealous salty, or whatever you want to call it, right? Salty. There's a better word, right? But in this case, I just think it was an older vet looking out for the young kids going, hey, you might want to calm it down a little bit. And I think that goes across the board.
Yeah, I think less is more is really a great way to put it. Less is more. And focus, if anyone that's a young up and coming wrestler, I guess, as you said that you worked in the business, that's great, knowledge to pass down. And I think the second part of that would be, less is more, and focus on execution. It doesn't matter what move you're doing. It could be the most basic thing ever, but focus on executing it exactly perfect. If you have a move, a move set that seems really basic, but you hit everything perfectly, you're going to have a good career. You really will. As long as you can do the other stuff. There's more to wrestling than the moves, right?
The EIC jumped in the chat real quick and said, Adam Cole powerbomb on the apron, making a super quick run-in. The new generation needs to take the advice of the vets 100%. There you go. So a quick run-in from the EIC himself. All right. Let's get out of controversy. Let's get back into some, I will say more fun topics. This upcoming Tuesday, NXT's got a huge show. Of course, it's New Year's Evil. And it's coming down on this upcoming episode of NXT. It'll be coming to you from the Performance Center. And let's say we do a quick rundown of the card and see what we think about this year's New Year's Evil. Just a quick rundown. We have the NXT Women's Championship on the line as JC Jane, your champion, takes on Kendall Gray. We have the NXT Women's North American Championship on the line as Thea Hale with Jordan Grace, and her takes on Blake Monroe. Then we also have the blow-off in a lot of ways, where the culling will be barred from ringside as Tatum Paxley takes on Izzy Dame. And last but not least, and probably the main event of the evening, the NXT Championship will be on the line as your champion, Obafemi, will take on the TNA X Division champion, Leon Slater. All belts on the line, but the big thing here, Miss Sammy, and this probably brings a smile to your face, 3 out of the 4 matches announced, 3 women's matches. NXT, where the women are really the stars. What are you feeling about New Year's Evil?
I'm excited for New Year's Evil. I really am, and I'm really just intrigued because we all heard the story about Blake and Thea and that match and what happened with the belt and everything. So I'm excited to see what they do here because maybe you run with it. Maybe you kind of maybe found that lightning in a bottle. Like sometimes in wrestling, you just things happen, but you turn chicken into whatever that saying is. You make the best of it.
Yeah, you turn chicken shit into chicken salad. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah,
that's what.
I'll let you use the profanity.
Yeah, it's fine. I can use the profanity. We're past the amount that I had to be into the show to use it. I just don't want to use any of the hard stuff. Yeah, I think this is a great card. And I think it really, once again, showcasing the fact that one of the strongest women's divisions in all of wrestling is in NXT. And handing that ball and letting them run with it. I mean, you have JC Jane getting the title back was a shock to a lot of us, but she had a successful title run, and I think
Yep.
she really grew, and I'm happy to see her back in there. Giving a Kendall Gray, this is going to be a great opportunity for another young up and comer, if you will, to step in there and see what she can do. Then, like you said, Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame, they've been on a tear. I think they've had a great feud, one of the better feuds in all of wrestling currently. And I can't wait to see where that goes. And like you said, there's a lot going into the Thea Hale versus Blake Monroe match, but hey, who cares? Wherever you want to go. And then, like I said, you got a contrast of styles in the only men's match. You got Oba Femi, your NXT champion, defending that title against the X Division, the 21-year-old Leon Slater, who's showing way bigger expertise past his years. And I think that's just a phenomenal go. We're all expecting that Javon Evans is going to be strictly on the main roster sooner than later, but I think this is good. We got Ken M saying Jane, Monroe, and Tatum Slater to shock the world and take the belt to the AMC debut. Okay, because you got to remember, we are right around the corner from the AMC debut for TNA Wrestling. So he's picking Jane, Monroe, Tatum, and Slater to win. That's a good lineup. I can see it happening. I don't know if I once again, it's weird to me, the Oba Femi move.
I think the Oba Femi move, it's more because it's more about working with people with different styles and just getting that preparation for the main roster. So I think that's more what it is, because this is an opportunity to just go out there and the mixture of styles and show your main roster ready, because I think Oba Femi's pretty darn close to main roster ready. And this is probably one of those last few tests where you're at where it's like, can you work with this type of worker? Can you do this? Can you go out there and have a 15-minute plus match that's just crazy and it should be fun? Hopefully it is, because I think it will be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be destination television on Tuesday night to see and to watch NXT New Year's Eve. So we got some quick hits. We're going to do some quick hits before we go into the final question. We have a little editorial question. We always like to end them at the end of the show, so we're going to go into there. But oh, wait a minute. Ken says too many vignettes for main roster, so fearing they tipped hand. That's true. All right. So with that being said, let's dive over into some quick hits. Right. Speaking of main roster WWE, one of the things that happened while we were off for holiday break, we found out who the masked man was in WWE, and it was none other than Austin Theory. It was him. It was him all along. Everybody had speculated on it. Sammy, how you feeling about Austin Theory as a member of the Vision?
With hindsight, he should have revealed himself at Survivor Series, and I don't know. He shaved his head, so we just got a lot of shaved head wrestlers. We'll see what happens.
Getting lost in the shuffle, if you will. You know what I mean?
Right? Like, it's there's the opportunities there. It's 2026. More eyes are on the product of Royal Rumble. WrestleMania season's here now. So, if you give him something to do, sure. But if he just ends up in a tag team with Logan Paul and they're just a bunch of, dickheads, I'm not here for that. I'm not. It's boring.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you there. We got something else to talk about. Stacked card. Speaking of Raw, stacked card, January 5th. The year anniversary of being on Netflix, the season premiere, if you will, even though, it's really hard to have seasons, but in a thing that does that. But of course, we already talked about January 5th, the headlining match, the main event, CM Punk defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Braun Breaker. But we have a hell of a card underneath that as well. You have a lot of championships on the line. Sammy, how are you feeling about the season premiere of Monday Night Raw on January 5th coming up this upcoming week?
Yeah, it's I'm actually really excited because we've talked about, WWE in general has not been the best watch for the past couple of months, and 2025 was certainly not as strong of a year as it was 2024 was. But some pieces are in place now. There's some free agents available and some other contracts coming up, so there'll probably be some movement there. NXT has been really strong. Well, we finally see some of the male talent finally crack and sustain on the main roster and become main players. And it looks like Braun Breaker, main event player. So, Yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time of year. WrestleMania season always, can kind of get the juices flowing. So hopefully the storytelling is there. Having the kind of reset this time of year, obviously Seth Rollins being out kind of threw some, a wrench and everything. So now you've had time to retool, and we'll see what happens.
Then on top of that, you got Kabuki Warriors defending the tag team championships against Rhea and Io. So you got Mommy on there, which Mommy is money. You also have Becky Lynch taking on Maxine Dupree, newly married, by the way. Congratulations to Tony Luke and Maxine Dupree on their wedding nuptials this past weekend. Well, actually, technically a day ago from when we're recording. So congratulations to them. But she's got a huge match on Raw against Becky Lynch, amongst other things going on. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a show, and we're of course going to be tuned in and talking about it next week. Let's switch gears because I know I'm going to do there's going to be some content coming out January 4th, right around the corner. That means Wrestle Kingdom. Sammy, I don't know. I mean, in my time of knowing you, I know you dabble in the New Japan, not as much as me, so I'll give you the floor first. Are you excited for Wrestle Kingdom this year?
Yes. New Japan has worked very hard over the past couple of years to really kind of rebuild that roster. It got a little thin at times, and it's really starting to pay dividends. It did a lot in 2025, and Wrestle Kingdom. I mean, Wrestle Kingdom is WrestleMania, so it's an exciting show. We're gonna a big card, big retirement match, and everything. So yeah, this is an exciting show. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I mean, obviously, one of obviously we just saw John Cena's exit from wrestling over a year. We're going to see another year-long exit as Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace, is going to be leaving. He's taking on Okada in his final match. This will be his retirement match. I mean, you're headlining the show with winner takes all. The IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Takeshita taking on the IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion Yota Tsuji, of course, one of the members of the Musketeers, the new Musketeers. One of them is going to walk out with both belts. We've been guaranteed it's a unified match. That's going to be some stuff going in there. Tsuji's been cutting some amazing promos. Like I said, I'm going to be really kind of breaking this down. There will be a video on YouTube. Keep your eyes out for it before, probably coming out on Saturday because it'll be right before the event. And I'm gonna really touch on how well they've been running that with Tsuji really talking about Takeshita as an outsider and defending the castle. I mean, Tsuji's gone as far as saying that he wishes the AEW partnership would end because he's tired of paying second fiddle, and they're not second fiddle to anybody, which is what you need to say if you're in New Japan. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We've got some other great matches on there. We have another winner takes all match. Speaking of which, with the IWGP Women's Championship and the Strong Women's Championship on the line, as Saya Kamatani is taking on Suri. That's going to be an amazing match. We got the Rambo. We got El Phantasmo and Chris Brooks for the television title. So much great stuff happening. And on the flip side of this, we had a huge thing go down. I wanted to point out one more thing in Japanese wrestling on Quick Hits because we have two more things to talk about. If you didn't notice, we have new GHC, so Pro Wrestling Noah World Tag Team Champions. And it's kind of interesting because former New Japan guys, Bushi and Tetsuya Naito, made their Bushi had already made the jump to Noah. He had a mystery partner at their New Year's show turned out to be none other than Tetsuya Naito. Big get for Pro Wrestling Noah, in my opinion, having Naito over there. So it looks like LIJ is really implanted now in Pro Wrestling Noah with a great match there because they defeated Kano and Marufuji, two all-time greats in GHC for those tag titles. Amazing match. If you haven't seen it, go out of your way to check that out. So lots of good things happen in Japan, and we're going to be talking more Japanese wrestling as we go into 2026 here at 607 TWS. So stay tuned for that. One more thing we got to do before we get to our fun question. We've been talking about it, and this is I don't want to go too deep into it because we're going to be talking about this a lot this year. But it has to be said. MJ, we kind of touched on this a little earlier. We said one of our predictions at the halfway mark of 3/4 mark actually of last year was AEW needed to finish strong to go into 2026 looking strong. My question to you now that we are officially in 2026, we've seen the end of the year of 2025. Do you think AEW finished 2025 strong going into 2026?
Yes. The television product is better. the pay-per-view product has always been strong, but it finished stronger because there was more story to it leading into it. Um, there's still the same old challenges that you and I talk about to death, and a lot of the other wrestling community, but and I don't think we'll ever fully accept them. But at the end of the day, that's how they want to do business, and that's how they're going to do business because they've been doing it now for many years in that manner, and that's fine. But the product is much stronger than it was at the beginning of the year and is primed for a strong 2026.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to keep it short and sweet and agree with you. I think that they had the strong finish that needed to be happened for AEW happened, and I think they're going into a strong that this could set them up. So hopefully they do the right things in 2026, but they finished the year strong. Whereas I think the WWE kind of limped across the line, in my opinion.
It's funny because if you go back even to the beginning of the year, because we were just so hyped with 2024 and how big of a year it was, storytelling was not that strong in WWE this year. And in the year where we had John Cena's retirement tour, and everything else in between, like it was not a strong year. It really was not a strong year for WWE, and that's tough. It's tough because I mean, look at the talent there, and it wasn't fully even injury related. You didn't, you lost Liv for a while, but Seth, but I don't know. It's just weird,
I've said it
lazy at
before.
times.
I'll say it again. Creatively bankrupt in WWE.
Yeah.
Creatively bankrupt. Well, let's see if they can turn it around. Obviously, January 5th will be a big cursor to that. All right. We got to the good. We have one fun question. We know we're in TK overtime. It's fine. We're still finish it a little bit early, but we had to get one fun one in. And because it's New Year's Day, it is as we're recording live, January 1st, 2026. It's a new year. What do we all do in the New Year's? We make New Year's resolutions that we all proceed to. Well, most of us fail at. Let's be honest. I think that the statistic is overwhelming the most people. That's why I stopped making New Year's resolutions a long time ago, because it just doesn't do you any good. However, here at 607 TWS, our version of the resolution, and chat, super chat, feel free to drop yours as well. Our resolution is the bold prediction. So it is January 1st. And that means I want you to make, and if Chad and Super Chat want to jump in, I want you to make a bold prediction, Sammy, and I'm going to make one too, that will take place sometime between today and December 31st of 2026. So it has to be in the year. It can't be something that can't be one of those predictions where we say, in 2 years, so-and-so is going to be a champion. No. It's got to be a bold prediction. I want a bold, and I want you to swing for the fences, because once again, like New Year's resolutions, I want it to be based on something can happen, right? But it could be as big of a swing as you want. So that way, you're going to go home, go big or go home. So what is your bold prediction for pro wrestling in the year 2026?
We just did a very large John Cena retirement tour. Wrestle Kingdom is another retirement tour. Chris Jericho's probably coming back to WWE. That's not my bold prediction. Everyone's been talking about that for a retirement tour.
Looks great.
Yeah, looks phenomenal. My bold prediction for 2026 is AJ Styles will not retire this year.
Ooh.
It will end up happening in 2027. They will extend him a 6 months extension. He will tack on another year or whatever. He will not retire this year. That's my bold prediction.
Right on. Oh, geez. I'm in the hot seat. By the way, I forgot to bring some of the quick hits that I want to throw out there. If you didn't see the picture that Brett Lauderdale put up of Nick Gage, Nick Gage looks good. And I'm glad that he's gotten the help and he's gone through. And, more importantly than seeing Nick Gage back in the ring, is seeing him in good shape and doing well, especially after, he had a rough 2025. So, we're behind you, and that was awesome to see. I want to get that in there, but that's not my bold prediction, because that's obviously we already saw it. My bold prediction. Oh man, this is going to be. I'm going to swing for the fences. I'm going to piss off a lot of people, and I'm even going to catch you, Sammy, by surprise. And if Ken M is watching still, he's going to drop whatever he's got in his hands. So you better sit down. I think that in 2026, AEW will turn back the hands of time to 2019, I think that they will take advantage of WWE being creatively bankrupt. I think that they will finally focus on the things that they should have done like they did in the beginning, because it looks like they're going in that direction. And I think that AEW will put the most amount of pressure that has been put on WWE since they announced their coming together. I think they will grow as a company. I think that they will grow as a product. I know a lot of the WWE fans are going to hate that, but guess what? What's there to hate if wrestling's good? If AEW does better, that forces WWE to be better. Or it forces them to go the way of the dinosaur. I don't have faith in WWE's upper management because I have no faith in TKO. They're just there to make money. And guess what? Wrestling fans are already starting to feel the pinch in their pockets when they try to go to live events and when they go to buy merchandise. It's only going to get worse, ladies and gentlemen. And obviously, Triple H isn't worried about being creative because we found out he doesn't know his ass from the hole in the ground. He's no better than the old boss. I said it. Maybe on personal terms, but not on creativity. That's what I'm going to say. And I think they'll strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a bold enough prediction, Rich.
I think it is, because AEW has done everything in their power to shoot themselves in the ass since the inception of the company. So right now they're going in on a hot streak, and we can all admit that they ended the year strong, and they're going in. This is where they normally would fumble. I'm saying for once that they're not going to fumble. I think that is a huge bold prediction, because let's be honest, I'm probably going to eat my words by February.
I want Wardlow comes back and he's MJF's henchman again, and we're just rolling back the old stuff again.
As you pointed out,
you got to do a dinner debonair or whatever to get into a match with me.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're going to go back to the trials of MJF. Remember all those? They've gone to that well 1.5 million times, right? But my point is, I think that we're going to get past that. I think that finally in the history of this company, I think that there's and you know what, I said that you have to have an educated guess, right? And and my reason for being bold is because they've always shot themselves in the ass. Ken, no, that's my shoot in the ass. He said the return of the inner circle.
No, anyway. I guess there's talk about him having a faction in WWE. Why not?
Maybe, why not? But here's my point. My point is that I think that what we've seen leading in, we're talking about what BT has done with the Elite being back together, with the Young Bucks being back together and doing and moving to a thing. Kenny Omega feeling very fresh. MJF really giving you the options because like you said, yes, on the surface you go, well, he just came back and they're handing him a belt. But no, it's not. It's a little more than that. It's not. You're not talking about the average wrestler. You're talking about a guy who's your longest reigning champion, who's a guy who, when you hand the ball, he's going to carry the ball, and he's so dynamic that you can do a lot of different things. Will Ospreay should be making his return just in time for the biggest show of the year, which is back in Wembley. And if they're on fire when that happens, we'll have another full house in Wembley. I'm not saying sold out, but a full house. It's looking great. And then I think that we're going to do some big work. Although Ken M might have just outdid me in the comments. Bold prediction. WWE opens the forbidden door for one night with AEW.
I guess another bold prediction. Yeah, I guess another bold one would be is TNA by the end of the year is very much talked about in conversation for being the number 2 product on TV.
I don't think that's a bold prediction because I think it's going to happen. I'm going to be honest. I think it's going to happen. I think that's more of a, when you're talking about in the terms of our fearless leader, the ODPH podcast, Locks and Leaps, I feel that's closer to a lock than a leap. I feel like they've had such a strong last couple years in TNA and rebranding back to TNA Wrestling and now getting on AMC. I feel like you're really going to see. I'm not saying everything's been perfect because it hasn't. They've had some hiccups, but their hiccups have been way less major than some of the other companies. I will also go ahead and just say this. I love it. TNA just becomes WWE Gold. LOL is what Ken M says. But I will say this. Proof of the best things that WWE are doing currently, NXT with Shawn Michaels running the ship, still Destination Television, and that AAA buyout. I'm telling you, that Clash of the Titans or Guerrero de Titans was such a great show. It was one of my favorite shows of we're pretty soon in this new year, we're going to be doing some Brody Awards. And I think that that's up there for pay-per-view /PLE of the year. That sounds crazy to say, But that was
No,
that good of
but
a show.
it's something that you and I and Ken M, we've all kind of talked about it. WWE, that main event scene is just it's kind of stale at times, and yeah, yeah, TNA
And that's
being number
where,
two by the end of the year, that I don't know if
yeah,
it's, yeah, like you said, it's not bold
ready for
enough,
this?
but
It could be number 2 by the end of the year with AEW as number 1. That's
that's
kind of
bold.
wild to say. And that is bold. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just pointing out the facts that the main event scene feels way fresher in AEW currently.
Yeah,
Way fresher. And they still have a lot that they could, in the arsenal. They don't even have all their
it's
stuff in
true.
the arsenal. They could actually go towards it. And it still feels fresher with a lot more. Think about it. Their top guys right now, and I'm not saying, and because this is going to be one that comes back to me, I'm not saying that any of them are bigger than Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns or CM Punk. Star power
No,
wise, no. However, I would say that the competition level between an MJF, a Swerve Strickland, a Hangman Adam Page, throw in there a Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy, who are fan favorites, throw in there Will Ospreay, who will be returning sooner than later, throw in there Samoa Joe, who is always a tool player, John Moxley, who has now come back in. You still have Okada, and I think I already mentioned Kenny Omega, but if I didn't, throw him in there. And that's not even everybody that can be in their main event scene. That
Christian,
is,
Bobby Lashley, yeah,
Christian, Adam Copeland, those guys could both be back in the singles main event scene. Not to mention, you could revolutionize tag team wrestling if you get FTR back to where they used to be. The Young Bucks are on that road, it looks like, and then you have Cope, and you still have the final tour of Cope and Christian. Is if you keep them a tag team, and then you have a couple young tag teams. The women's division over there, when they get Mercedes Moné out of the way, which they've kind of done, has now looked fresher. We're getting more
yep,
Chris Statlander. We're getting more Willow Nightingale. We're getting more Sisters of Sin. We're getting more. Like, we were judgmental of their tag division. And I will say this. I think the one thing that they beat WWE in, not quite TNA in, but the one thing that they have beat WWE in this short period of time is the women's tag division. They haven't beat TNA's women's tag division yet.
mm.
Ken M did say about WWE, this was about WWE because I didn't put it up right away. It's stale AF, which is true.
Yeah, it is.
And they either need to get back on their business or they're going to have a rough go, because they're going to price fans out, which we've been talking about for a while, and it's starting to happen. And once they price fans out, as long as that product's stale, now what is why am I going to watch Raw or the PLEs if I have no chance of going to see them live and I'm not going to, invest my money into it? Where I could be watching TNA or AEW or New Japan or the Indies and actually be able to achieve going to them and seeing them and supporting them financially as well. You know what I mean? It's I'm telling you, the business side of wrestling is going to get interesting in 2026 for WWE.
Yeah,
Mark
it's
words.
interesting because there's just so many guys in the top tiers of wrestling with tenure. And it's looking like in WWE's case that might have kind of shot themselves in the foot. Not that I love guys that are making money, they have long-term contracts and stuff, but locking players into these longer term deals than they used to has kind of hurt WWE more than it has hurt AEW.
And now guys taking less money and leaving. The biggest thing about the Karrion Kross, remember when everybody thought it was a work and now it turned out to be a work? He got offered a lot of money. And because they didn't want to feature him, he left. Same thing happened with Santos Escobar. He was on his way out the door. They kind of lured him back in with a big paycheck. And then when he got there and he saw the creative had nothing for him, he turned down a large, lucrative deal. And this is coming from people because and this is not, floating my boat, but I happen to be friends with people who work on those contracts. Not for WWE, but for those particular wrestlers. So I happen to know that the deals were big. The offers were large. It did get leaked out there and rumored out there, but it's trust me, in the case of Santos Escobar, it was bigger than what it was rumored to be. And once he went back and discovered that they had nothing creatively for him, they just were trying to keep him locked up. They were going to ship him AAA pretty much, which is fine. AAA has been fun, but he's like, well, that's not a reason to give me this much money then. I want to be on TV. There it is. And now guys are getting those opportunities. And TNA, which, yes, they have a partnership, and Ken was writing back at me up with the facts, But TNA, even though there's a partnership with WWE, don't get it twisted. They have their own business model too. So don't get it twisted that they can't be in there. And that might end their relationship with WWE at some point when they start taking some talent from them. Because guess what? If you start getting the ratings and you start climbing up, you need to reload. Where are you going to reload from? When TKO's upper management that doesn't understand wrestling from a hole in the ground doesn't sign somebody and they decide to go to TNA and they're like, well, wait a minute, you can't sign that guy. TNA's like, well, why can't we? That'll be the death of their. But here's the thing: they've already benefited off of that partnership. So if that partnership goes away tomorrow, as long as they keep steering the ship in the right direction, TNA will be fine. Same thing with AEW. If they continue to steer in the right direction, you're going to start seeing them chip into some market share, and then that's going to be interesting. Will these big time TV deals that TKO wants and craves for, is that going to be enough, or are they going to have to go? Oh man, maybe we should try this wrestling thing. Because I think it's going to be the former and not the latter. I think they just don't care because they don't give about wrestling. I know I censored myself there, which is good, but they don't. They care about making money.
They don't care about making
money.
Like
we said, we quoted Mr. Shapiro there to close it out. When you make VKM look like a baby face for a minute by saying, "Oh, he didn't care. He still cared about families buying tickets, and we don't care about that." That's pretty low. And I think fans you mix that with creative bankruptcy, and all you're going to have less of the people who just will not watch anything else. And that's a good number of people, but is that enough to continue to grow? Is that enough to keep getting bigger and bigger offers? No, it's just not. Especially if your competitors can step their game up. So 2026, and I will say this, and this isn't a bold prediction. This is something that we will be talking about throughout 2026. Business-wise, as being someone who used to work office in independent wrestling, I understand how the business works, the actual business side. Business is going to get interesting in 2026, especially for WWE, like the business side. And I will be telling you what the wins and not. And like I said, I don't want to hear these arguments of, oh, well, they made X amount of billions from this deal and that deal. Okay. What happens when WrestleMania is half empty? I'm not saying that's going to happen this year because it's not going to happen this year. But it's good. Likely to happen. What's going to happen when they go to Saudi next year? WrestleMania is going to be in Saudi Arabia. Already, we were just talking about this. I can't watch. I'm probably not going to be able to watch the Royal Rumble live because it'll be on at like 3:00 in the afternoon. I might have to work that day unless I take the day off from work. But why would I take that day off when I can take off the Super Bowl the following week? And mind you, I love the Royal Rumble. So now we're faced with the fact that I'm probably watching the Royal Rumble on replay. And once again, great. I love the global audience. I've always been behind it. The problem with that is you got to remember the lion's share of what keeps your business running is still in the States. Yes, you are a global company, but you operate mostly in the US. And when you start alienating that audience, they're going to go elsewhere. Mark my words, they give you bigger money in Paris or Saudi or wherever. But you start alienating the audience, we're going to start cutting the head off the snake. But that's for another time. I'm just pontificating now because I'm on a rant, which I guess people do tune in for. So thank you for that. For my favorite, for my people who love the rants. Trust me, I can give you a lock for 2026. There will be a lot more rich rants about pro wrestling. A lot more. A lot. I can promise there will even be probably solo videos that I make about rants in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because at some point we're probably gonna have a very long conversation about the failure of main event Jey Uso.
Hey, people ain't ready for that conversation yet. Still, he sells a lot of shirts, but it ain't. That's it. That's all he got. Anyways, by the way, I don't know. After his drunken tirade at the Cena thing. Woo. Anyways, I digress. With that being said, though, before we get out of here, I do got to give one more shout out to, it's the boss was in the chat, so I guess I still have a job. But right there, fanlightsone.com. Go over there, check out comics and pop culture, baby. That's what we do. We're growing. We are only in the second month of this company, and I'm so blessed and happy to be a part of it. I know Sammy is as well. We have big plans for 2026 and beyond. Come join the party now. Make sure you're doing it. Follow us. Go to the website. Check out the comic book stuff. Check out the wrestling stuff. They're going to be, as we grow as a company, there'll be more things unveiled. Trust me, the more that people get behind, the quicker these things happen. That's just how that works. But on top of that, make sure while you're over there, you get those links to the social medias. You're following us on socials. We'll have things going up for that. Make sure that you head over to the YouTube channel if you're not already there. If you're already there, if you haven't already, smash the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications, and hit that thumbs up to let the bosses know you want more awesome wrestling content as well as other content on the Fanlight Zone YouTube channel. But here's the catch. Do all these things. If you're not there, get over there. We just want your support. And when you support us, we're going to support you back. We have a lot of cool things going on. There's giveaways. If you go, we had the year-end awards, the Fanlight Awards, the first ever Fanlight Awards. We usually have it voted on the fans, but since we just started, we didn't do it that way. That video's up on YouTube now. Go there, subscribe, and comment your picks for those. And we've got some comic books we're giving away out of that. And there's going to be more giveaways and stuff going forward, so you're going to want to dive in. We've got some pretty big things going on behind the scenes. So just dive in and get on board with us. So that's all I can hope for. And that is my hope for 2026 for Fanlight Zone, as well as 607 TWS, the wrestling show, doing things the way I always did them before, being loud, being obnoxious, and taking no prisoners, but being fair and calling it right down the middle. That's what I'll guarantee you in 2026. So with that being said, for the first episode of 607 TWS of the new year of 2026. I know I've been talking a while. For myself, for Miss Sammy, thank you so much for tuning in. We've got more coming at you, including some stuff for Wrestle Kingdom and everything else. So you're going to want to stay tuned. And you know what? For the first time in 2026, I'll say it like this. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And most importantly, later, wrestling fans.